You were drinking out of the Guggenheim.
Imagine that.
Bunch of little people in there, filling your mouth.
Is this part of it too? This little handle?
I don't think that the Guggenheim has a handle.
Doesn't have a handle?
Mm-mm. It doesn't.
Probably be a lot easier to
I don't think
move
Frank
around.
Lloyd Wright did that. He didn't think about that. Dropped the ball on that one.
Totally.
Lloyd.
Dropped.
You can call him Lloyd when you know him as good as I do.
You're listening to Articulate with your hosts, Kevin Kramer and Sean Gillespie, your go-to guys for art tips, techniques, and general artist ramblings. Presented by drawingandcoloring.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Season 2
Episode 3.
Episode 3 of Articulate.
Chris.
I am Kevin Kramer, as always with me,
Sean Gillespie.
Sean Gillespie. And
Today, what are we talking about? We're talking about cheating.
cheating.
Dirty cheaters.
People that cheat.
Can you cheat in art? That's what we're talking about today.
Right.
And that's the question I pose for you, Kevin. Do you feel like, just off the top of your head, obviously we're going to discuss,
Right.
but off the top of your head, do you feel like that you can cheat in art? Or is art just one of those things where there's no such thing as cheating in art? It's all fair game.
I think it's all fair game.
Do you?
I do.
Huh.
I don't think... If you can devise a process that makes something awesome, you have a problem with that.
I have trouble drinking. I have a drinking problem.
If you have a
With
process that you developed that is uniquely yours or something like that, and that's how you create these amazing images, then screw anybody else that says you're cheating.
Okay. All right. So I kind of feel like no.
Okay.
I feel like I want to feel like yeah. I want to agree with you.
There's definitely something inside that goes, man, that's how he did it.
That's the thing.
Right.
That's the feeling I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not really expressing myself well, but I want to agree with you. I want to feel like there's no such thing as cheating.
Right.
That whatever you can do is fair game. But at the same time, if I see somebody tracing a picture, like just using tracing paper and then painting that tracing, I would feel like, because they didn't really learn any necessary skills to do that.
See,
they just traced.
Now, there's two sides to that. There's an assumption there that is going into it to where you assume that person doesn't know how to do proportions or...
Well, that's the thing. And I kind of feel like if you put in the time and you learn how to do it, right, and then you go back and create and do a simpler, a more simple system to get the same outlook, then it's fair game.
Right.
It's good because you put in the time and you learned.
Right. There's a good example, which
Right.
I actually recently purchased a documentary. The guy, Drew Struzan, he did all of the Star Wars posters, Indiana Jones posters, Back to the Future posters.
He's a poster guy.
He is
He's
the man.
the poster guy.
The man behind
the
the
poster guy of the 20th century.
He is pretty much the most influential guy for posters ever.
That's awesome. And so...
And his...
right,
is
that all you got there?
And I dropped the
You
ball.
watched a documentary about this guy. Amazing.
And back to
We
you.
are all impressed. Right.
Anyway, obviously is awesome. His work's awesome. I was like,
okay,
I want to see how he does this. I looked up every single thing I could do or find, and the process isn't really in the documentary. He has like another one that he actually specifically goes through. It's like I think he does the Art of Hellboy, and he actually goes through the poster process that he does. But going through all of those and searching, I found in the forums is like, he just projects it and then he goes over it after.
Okay, so he takes a photograph, projects it, traces that photograph, and then paints it.
I think he does the composition first.
Okay.
Then he projects it.
Okay.
And then he paints it and does all his process.
Okay, so he takes like photos and puts them together on like Photoshop. Is that what you're saying, or?
No, he actually does draw out the composition.
Okay.
But yeah,
well, that's fair game.
He draws out the composition and then he projects it onto the bigger piece.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it's like...
I deal with this a lot in mural painting. Like pretty much a lot of times when I go to paint a mural, I'll get in there as they're opening. So there's still a lot of construction crew on there. And part of my process is I draw the image out and I lay it all out on paper. Mm-hmm. And then I scan that paper into the computer and I use a projector to project my drawing. Now it's an original drawing. It's not traced or anything like that. But then I have to project it and I trace it larger on the wall. Because the other alternative would be to grid it all out, and which would take forever, and then it would all have to be exact.
Now, I haven't actually seen the Hellboy documentary, but as far as I can see, he definitely works out the composition first with image references.
Okay.
So he's drawing from images.
Right.
Like if you've seen any of the Back to the Future ones, those are clearly drawn from images. I've even seen like them do photo shoots for it.
Okay.
But he works out the composition, and you can go to his site. He has all his different ones for like Hook. He has like 4 different compositions that are super elaborate. It's like, holy crap.
Right.
So he knows how to draw. He knows how to lay things out. But when it gets to the point of putting it up there, it's almost a waste of time to redraw all that or get everything down again.
Right. It would be a waste of time. And yeah. And I get that a lot, like the construction guys. Like every time I'm tracing it up there on the wall, they're always like, "You cheating!" One of them always says that. They always do, and they all think they're clever, construction guys. But yeah, they always like, well, "That's cheating! You're cheating!"
Now I'm not saying because again I haven't seen the documentary. I'm not saying he doesn't draw out the composition and then project the images so he can get better designs. Does that make sense?
No, I wasn't listening. No, yeah, it does. Makes sense.
I don't know if he doesn't do that.
But your point is that he doesn't cheat because he has the necessary skills to do that on his own. So he's using technology as a time-saving device, but he's already built the necessary framework within himself to do it. So he knows what he's doing.
He knows how to draw.
So he's not like somebody who's starting off, they don't know how to draw, or they don't know how to do anything, and then they're just taking photographs off the internet, projecting them, and then tracing the drawings.
That will cripple you.
Yeah, so you feel like that's cheating.
That is not putting in the work.
That's not putting in the work. So you got to put in the time.
You don't do the
before
work.
You do the crime.
You don't do the work.
Yeah, you have to do the work, and that's how I feel about it too. But it's not. And it's not that you can't make art doing that other way. It's just that
it's heartless.
It's not going to have a piece of your soul, and that's really the part. And that's why
that is just straight copy and paste.
Yeah,
most people don't like.
And if you do that, like even if you draw super realistically, if you draw it yourself, a lot of times it's going to have a piece of yourself in there because there's a certain way you draw a line, and it's just a part of you. And for some reason, and you think that it matches. But it doesn't match. But if you trace it, then you're getting a more exact copy.
Exactly.
So when you do photorealism, I know you use like a grid system. You do the grid as opposed to projecting it. Is that why? So that you get more of that? Or?
Well, the grid system is even some people still consider that cheating.
Yeah, some people do.
It's how much of an asshole do you want to be about it is really the question, I think.
Right. So where is that line on cheating? Now there's this what's brought up this podcast is there's this documentary coming out called Tim's Vermeer. And Vermeer has, is a Renaissance painter who's long, I think it was Renaissance. He was Renaissance, right? He's a back-in-the-day painter who was amazing. He's one of the best painters in history. Beautiful blues and yellows, and just his
not impressionist?
Huh?
He's not impressionist?
No, Vermeer.
I guess not if he's... Okay.
Yeah, no, Vermeer I'm just not sure if he's technically within Renaissance or if he was just a little bit before. I need to look up the years. Anyway, but his lighting and everything is just phenomenal. And it's so phenomenal that he's long since suspected that he used like camera obscuras and things like that.
Most of them did.
Now, a lot of people would consider that cheating because they're tracing, right? And that's kind of the documentary doesn't really, it's not like slandering him, but it's more talking about like what a genius and an inventor he was to create all these devices to make art as opposed to just him having mad artist skills. And I haven't seen the documentary yet. It comes out in February, so it's not out yet, but that seems to be what it's about. But it brings up a good point too. Like back in the day, a artist's job was to recreate with exact precision what they could because they didn't have cameras,
right?
So there's no photography.
Exactly.
And in a world with no photography, people are your record keepers. People are doing portraits, and they're, artists.
Right.
Were responsible for that. So they needed to be exact and precise. As accurate as possible. So they used camera obscura and things like that. But in today's society, what you've got is cameras.
Right.
So,
which is an art form in itself.
Right, it is its own art form, but does that mean that now you don't need artists to create, tracing may not be is important now, because now what you want in a painting is more of the artist's soul as opposed to an accurate recreation of the work itself in most cases. Not in all cases. Some people still want photorealism paintings.
Well, that's the argument with the Drew Struzan stuff. Is he projects it up there, but it's still, everything about that is traditional, old school, hand done. Him. Anything that's messed up, he would cut it out with a razor. Transplant it to another part of the picture or anything like that. It was Photoshop for real. And that is a whole nother set of skills.
So that's like collage. I mean, that's a whole, that's an art form in and of itself.
It's completely not cheating.
And then you get, and then with technology, obviously you get improvements. Like now he doesn't have to do that because of Photoshop. He can use Photoshop for that and then project now. And then you get a similar situation going on in the late 1800s when cameras are coming about. They're being invented. But right before that, you have the artist Meissonier, and he was considered at the time the greatest painter of horses in action, in motion, that existed. And what he did, he was a really wealthy painter. He mainly got his money by painting these like Three Musketeers, and I forget. I had a word for them. I forget what it is, but it's there's Three Musketeers, and they're all like getting drunk and things like that. And these good old boys is what he painted. And so he was a very famous artist, and he had a lot of money. Which is rare, even today, for an artist. So he built basically a railroad track in his backyard, dug up the garden, built a railroad track, and put a cart on it. And he would have his house, workers pull him on this cart back and forth while his son ran his horse back and forth so that he could sit there and sketch while running at the same speed as the horse so that he could see how the muscles moved and how they worked. But then jump a few years, cameras invented, and the first thing we get with a camera, pretty much, as soon as it's invented, is Muybridge taking a picture of the horses in motion. And because it was an argument on whether or not at any point horses, all their hooves are off the ground, is what started. So it was a study of that. And he was actually studying just that and not meaning to invent film, but that's what ended up happening because he created all these, and then you found that if you run through them real quick, the persistence of memory and the persistence of vision kicks in, and it turns into a continuous motion, and that's what was invented. What invented film is like flip books and all these things.
I was actually watching a documentary on Netflix recently that went through, I think it's called The Odyssey of Film. And it kind of went through the beginning and how that got started. And actually, there was, I think it was in Edison. Edison, he had like a big, huge room, not even a room, just like a building, completely created for light, like capturing light, and they had like a whole thing in the ceiling, and they could spin the whole thing on a pulley system. It would just spin around. They could get like follow the light so it would come through more, and that is how they captured it onto the film.
Well, that's cool.
I've never seen that.
That is cool. Wild. I didn't know about that. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, it's really, it's slow at first, but then it picks up.
I got you. But my point is, is that now you've got Muybridge's photos, right? And so now you can just draw from those photos as opposed to having to build a giant cart in your backyard to see how a horse moves. And a lot of people might consider that cheating. Like, oh, you didn't build the giant, train in your backyard? You're a cheater. But technology allows us to do these things that used to be incredibly difficult in simple ways, and it's not always necessarily cheating. So, where's the line, dude? Where's the line? Where's the line?
That's the question for this podcast. Where is the line?
Because I kind of feel like tracing is cheating. If you don't build up the necessary skills.
If you don't have the skills, it's cheating.
But if you put in the time, I feel like you can do whatever you want. If you can do it on your own, and then your technology just helps you and makes it easier, then I've got no problem with it. But if you didn't build any necessary skills...
You didn't put in the work.
And you're just using it as a lazy way to cop out, then I feel like that's cheating. But at the same time, a lot of people could easily argue, why should I put in all that time when this technology makes those skills unnecessary?
Well, it's kind of like photographs and Instagram, but that's a whole nother podcast. We're not going to go on. I think that's a good place to end this one with what is the line?
Where's the line?
What is cheating?
Yeah.
Is it tracing?
Right.
Is it projecting something you already drew? What is cheating to you? How do you feel about it? Put it in the comments below. Let us know.
Yeah. Can you cheat in art? That's the question.
Can you cheat in art, or is everything up for grabs?
Because I feel like you can.
Some people.
Some people, I feel like there is cheating.
Yeah.
But maybe not.
Well, let us know below, and I think that'll wrap this one up for today. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, hit the like button, or subscribe on iTunes. We should be on iTunes too. Or go over to articulatepodcast.com, Flipbook Studios, or...
No, theshano.com now.
Theshano.com.
Or Flipbook Studios. Either one. They're both up. They're both up and running.
Or drawingandcoloring.com. You can get access to all these places too. So let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Articulate with Kevin and Sean. Subscribe on iTunes or check them out on drawingandcoloring.com. Always reminding you to keep it simple.